what's the name of your piece?
Off the rails. And I'm like, you might remember me. Does this face look familiar? I was in your living room 5 nights a week. Oh, subtract about 10 years, remove the makeup and add curly blonde hair? No? Back then, I was better known as that cute kid from a certain award-winning family sitcom. But now you might know me from seedy tabloids and police mugshots. That's right, another child star gone off the rails. For me, it started at a wedding, just after I turned 14. My first taste. My first high. From that day on, I was a different person, drinking as often as possible, usually a couple times a week. It wasn't that drinking made me popular, but it gave me a confidence that I needed to be cool. It sounds silly, but at 14, I felt like I needed that extra something to make me feel comfortable around all the other kids my age. In high school, I watched the cheerleaders, the jocks, and the kids with the brains, the looks, and the money. They were cool, and that's what I wanted. In order to fit in, I wore what the popular kids wore, talked like them, and had the same interests and hobbies. Even if I wasn't into it, I could fake it. I am an actor after all. So I listened to Smashing Pumpkins, bought a bunch of trendy necklaces, and hung out on Main Street. I wanted to be like everybody else. But because of my TV role, I had to prove that I didn't think that I was better than everybody else. They just assumed I was stuck up. I couldn't win. How could I have friends without looking like I was trying too hard? But how could I keep to myself without people thinking I was a snob? I looked around and I thought my classmates had it together. They had something I didn't. I wanted to figure out how to be more like them. The answer, alcohol. I started going to all the parties, chasing that feeling that I first had at the wedding, sneaking alcohol when I could. Mum wasn't pleased. I lied to her often, and every now and again she'd catch me. Mum wasn't a drinker. She didn't have any alcohol in the house. She knew the drinking and the partying were taking place outside the house, so she slapped a curfew on me, told me who I could and couldn't hang out with, and watched my every move as much as she could. It wasn't enough. My best friend, Ryan, as much of a badass as he was, didn't drink or party. So when we went to the winter formal and I was drinking in the limo from a flask, he wasn't happy. He tried to stop me from drinking, and that wasn't fun for either of us. I found friends who would have had the kind of night that I'd enjoyed, and I left him behind. I needed to drink, and I was going to do so as often as possible, regardless of what he or my mum said or did. I knew that as long as I could check out mentally with alcohol, I didn't have to worry so much about what I felt inside. Every time I drank, I wanted that rush back, that feeling that I first had at the wedding, but I could never quite find it again. I didn't know then that that's the thing with addiction. No high is ever as good as it is the first time. I was a pretty slick drunk. I was still able to be the kid that got the good grades and was kind and lovable in front of the parents. But one thing changed. All of a sudden, I was partying harder than everyone else. I was drinking more and I was more obsessed with getting fucked up. Other kids were rebelling like normal high school kids, but I was out of control. Even from the very beginning, one drink wasn't enough. Others were happy being buzzed. I needed to be completely smashed and obliterated. I needed to prove that I wasn't that innocent little girl from that TV show, that I could party harder and get more trash than everybody else. I wanted to be the complete opposite of what people expected from my TV role. I was going to be the antithesis of my character. That was my goal. In my senior year, I was pretty out of control, but I felt like I had friends. Drinking equaled fun, and fun equaled friendship. Towards the end of the school year, I went out with a group of friends and we toilet papered some poor girl's house. We did the damage and drove off, but the cops caught up to us. I wasn't behind the wheel, but I was by far the drunkest in the car. As soon as the cops stopped us, I literally fell out of the car and started puking everywhere. Somehow that made me seem guilty. The cops called my mum and she came to pick me up. She was furious. She promised to punish me. "You're not going to grad night," she yelled. "But I can't miss it. It's the most important night of my life." I had to behave for weeks, but it worked. Well, at least the act worked. She caved. I went, but I promised to be good. On grad night, an all-night party inside the school gym, my friends and I decided to bond over a little ecstasy. Had I promised to be good? Oh well. So a group of friends and I, who've never done it before, took ecstasy and rolled our faces off. The chaperones at this little party had no idea, but we had the time of our lives. We danced for like 8 hours straight. At 6:30 a.m. the following morning, everyone's parents came to pick them up. It felt like the end of the Breakfast Club when everyone went home with his or her parents and reality sets in. The only difference was, my mum never showed. Ryan took me home. Did it matter that my mum could never trust me again? Hey, I had become the coolest person in the world. That didn't last long. With the series cancelled, school over, and not being able to depend on the brains, looks, or money, I found myself alone. There were people everywhere, but I was alone. My mother passed away just after the reruns had started. Dad actually said it was my fault. Huh. Maybe he's right. Just last week, after a cold pizza breakfast, I opened a bottle of scotch. For some weird reason, I thought I could smell my mom's perfume. I even looked all around the flat. Next thing I know, I'm pouring that scotch down the sink, and as it gurgles down the drain, I got that rush back, that feeling that I first had at the wedding. I don't know yet if this is a new me or a new character. Whatever, I haven't drunk since. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I can do it. Maybe I'll call my old agent. Maybe Ryan. Or maybe I'll be back in your living room before you know it. Not starring someone I used to be, but never really was.